Good morning. We're being here today speaking with Stephen Comley. He is the founder of We the People, which is a nonprofit whistleblower protection organization. He's a resident of Raleigh, and he's going to be here with us this morning discussing the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and the kind of problems that plague the atomic energy industry. And obviously, we're very close to Seabrook, so there should be something that we need to be informed and aware of. Welcome, Mr. Comley. It's nice to see you here in Merrimac today. You've been involved with this concern with Seabrook for a very long time, and have found out a number of things that I'm sure our viewers are going to find interesting about the ARC. How did you get involved with this in the first place?
Well, I'm Stephen Comley Sr. My son has the same name.
I apologize for that.
It's important we get that in there. The reason why I got involved and the passion I have really originated from my mom. She was a single mother, and when I was 6 years old, she told both my sister and I, always respect your elders, always love them, and always give them opportunities so that they always feel worthwhile, no matter what condition or age they're in. And my family's been in the nursing home profession for over 80 years in Massachusetts. And my son has run, he's the fourth generation. He's run our nursing home since, for over, coming up 26 years now. It's fourth generation. And when I was running our healthcare facility, ran it for almost 35 years, I got a call from one of our nurses in my office, and she said, Mr. Comley, you got to come down and see Jean right away. I said, what's the matter? She's almost in tears. I'll be right down. So I went down and I said, Jean, what's the matter? She says, I've been reading the Boston Globe about the effects of the Chernobyl accident, and it says here that the accident came as far as Vermont and affected the cow's milk in Vermont. And like Fukushima, it's affected the air in Mass. She says, Mr. Comley, you know I'm paralyzed, and your healthcare facility is only 12 miles from the Seabrook plant, and the industry and the owners of Seabrook tell us that if we're outside the 10-mile radius, we're safe. And it doesn't appear to be that way, according to the news story here. Mr. Comley, if the Seabrook has a meltdown or an accident there, what's the evacuation for me? Because I'm paralyzed and I can't be moved. I said, I don't know, Jean. Well, go find out. So I went over the plant and I asked them, and they told me they didn't have one for her. And I said, well, I'm licensed by the federal government and the state government provide adequate evacuations for everybody, not just the people that can run.
Well, of course.
And they said, well, you got to go see the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I said, who are they? Oh, they're a federal agency. They make sure all the plants are safe. And I said, well, it appears that they haven't been by here lately because you don't have one for everybody. So I was thinking on my way back to Raleigh, my college professors always encouraged me to stand up for what I believe in when I know something's wrong. And I know something's wrong here. And being a life member of the Republican Inner Circle, which I still am, I figured Reagan would see me. So I got 80% of my town on a petition. My two sons and my wife and other people, you know, rose up. And we got 80% of the town on a petition in 1986 asking Reagan to investigate the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in the industry. And I took those petitions to Washington and talked with Mr. Reagan's appointment secretary. And I said, you know, I wanted to see him. And he said, well, he can't see you. And I said, well, you want to put that in writing? And he says, that's highly unusual, Mr. Comley. I said, so is getting 80% of a town in Raleigh, in the United States. So then I began to see how powerful the agency, federal agency, and the NRC were so close to protecting the industry's profits instead of the safety of the people. So I hired an airplane out of Virginia to tow a big banner, 12-foot banner near the White House. And you could do it then. Can't do it now. And it said, Mr. Reagan, please see me calmly. And Mary McGrory, syndicated columnist at the Washington Post, wrote a story and says, you know, this guy Comley, he's not your ordinary person who wants a lobbyist who wants to see the president.
No, that was an unusual way to do it.
Yeah, and he says, and she said, you know, he's a farmer. He owns a nursing home. He skydives. He's, you know. So it started to get national media attention. I didn't think that was a big deal, but believe me, I found out it is, because the industry and some people in Congress have told reporters, including the Boston Globe, who doesn't write about me anymore, hands off on the nuclear issue. So, then the executive director of the NRC, Reagan appointee, Victor Stello, because of the national media attention I was getting then, had to get in touch with me. And I guess kind of cool me off and let me know everything's fine. Well, that didn't happen. In writing, he told me to leave Jean behind and give her a bottle of potassium iodide to drink, to be administered by a volunteer willing to stay behind during an accident. And let me assure you, those individuals are hard to recruit.
I can imagine they would be.
So that's how it started. And then I got a call from informants inside the agency who wanted to meet with me. So I figured the same thing, you know, they're going to try and cool me off, put me on the ice wagon. No, that wasn't the case. I get in there and they said, you're perfect. And I said, let me assure you, I'm not perfect, but why do you think I am? Well, you are for this issue. We can't believe the amount of press that you've been able to get. Nobody's ever been able to do that. And you've got 80% of your town on a petition. And you get the one issue that every American can identify with because they get to have their mother or father in your nursing home. And we give them iodine, that makes them expendable. Now go out there and spread the word to the American people. I said, wait a minute. I'm an administrator and a farmer. I can't do this alone. I'm going to need help. Oh, we're going to help you. You are? I said, all right. How do you feel about me setting up a national whistleblower organization? If I happen to get evidence in mail about cover-ups inside your agency or unsafe conditions in the nuclear industry, I'll make sure the evidence gets out, but I won't reveal any sources. Well, you better not, because if you do, we're going to lose the careers we worked for 35 years, and we'll have to pull our kids out of college because we won't be able to afford to keep them there. 6 months later, I get evidence there were counterfeit, substandard parts in most, if not all, the plants in the United States, including Seabrook. And these parts are pipe flanges, valves, circuit breakers, nuts and bolts, stamped as U.S. made when they weren't. That makes them counterfeit. More important, they were stamped and labeled as tested parts before they were put into the plant. And then we found out they were below standard. So the industry, people in Congress who get their war chests filled by nuclear lobbyists, especially during wartime, and look what Trump's done. He's got us right back into Afghanistan again. And believe me, there's all kinds of military, military contracts being signed. So I released that information. I thought that was a responsible thing to do. And then Mr. Bush hired Attorney General Thornburgh, who used to be the governor of Pennsylvania when 3 Mile Island was covered up, and I got evidence of that too. They come after me, Mr. Thornburgh come after me with a federal subpoena, and the federal subpoena says this: Mr. Stephen Comley and Roger Fortuna, the deputy director of the NRC's Office of Investigations, are conspiring to topple the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And if Comley doesn't give us the tape recordings he's made of high-level officials in Washington, he could be jeopardizing the safety of the American people and the security of nuclear plants around the country. They had me in court for 6 years, Mass Federal Court, for 6 years, $1,000 a day fines, because I wouldn't confirm nor deny he had the tape recordings. But if you're in Washington and I want to tape record you without your permission, it's legal, because that's what came out of Watergate. You can do it in New York too. Ask Giuliani, who's part of this cover-up, and I can prove that too by my tape recordings. You know, this is one of the biggest scandals that you'll ever have an opportunity, and the Merrimac residents will have an opportunity to make a difference in. But I learned a long time ago, you got to get involved in your government. You got to do a lot more than complain if you're going to make change come about. And that's what I'm doing. And I love what I'm doing. And I've had threats on my life, and I expect those. You know, it goes with the territory. But when somebody come after my family in Raleigh and burned a car on my farm at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 15 minutes after my wife left the house while I was in Washington, yeah, that got my attention. And you know, that builds passion. And the nursing home issue, that builds passion, because they're not expendable as far as I'm concerned. The industry and the owners of Seabrook, I guess, think they are. Also, who's expendable? Whistleblowers. And some of the bravest people in this country are whistleblowers, and they don't get treated very well. You know what they say to me once time? Mr. Comley, you know how we feel sometimes? I said, no. We feel like roadkill, because people don't rise up. When we put our families and our financial security on the line to get the truth out through We the People. And isn't that terrible? You know, and the other thing that's expendable is I found out that, well, you know, I got a pleasant surprise one day when I was running for President of the United States in 2015. Now, let me tell you, I was serious about it. And that's one way to get the issue out there. I ran against Trump in 2015. Plunked down $1,000 to get my name on the ballot in New Hampshire. You don't need signatures in New Hampshire.
State, right.
In Massachusetts, I got to get 10,000.
Right.
But, and we'll get them. I really believe that'll happen. But I found, well, I got a pleasant call from the media class at Triton Regional High School. And I am so proud of them. You know, they want to get involved in this important issue. So they called me up and they said, you know, Mr. Comley, you're the first person in Raleigh who's ever ran for President of the United States. We want to interview you. And they did. And I thought they did a heck of a job. You know what they're doing now? They're investigating the last time the high schools within the 10-mile radius had an actual drill. Not a paper drill, an actual drill. And also, I've spoken recently to some students at Pentucket that I met in Newburyport just by chance. And they seem interested. And they have an opportunity to hopefully run a national petition through their whole school. And the petitions President Trump, Vice President Pence, Speaker Ryan, and members of Congress to set up an independent committee to investigate the NRC. And I really predict that if and when they do that, that Mr. Trump he's got to notice that, and he knows me anyway, because you know, I confronted him in 2015 in Hampton, and it's on videotape.
I mean, this guy, I hope this question's worth it. This guy has been standing up for the entire thing. I hope this is going to be a good question. Go ahead. Okay.
And Fox hasn't touched this. And I've been in touch with Kelly too, and I've been in.
Let's go. Come on. Gotta go.
All right.
Gotta go.
There's
You're screwing up my whole speech, this guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's counterfeit substandard parts in most of the nuclear plants in the United States.
Counterfeit substandard parts in nuclear plants in the United States. I'm not surprised to hear that. Why? Am I surprised?
And some of them have come from China. Now, when I brought
And in airplanes too, by the way.
When I brought this out, the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, accused me of conspiring to topple their agency, had me in mass federal court for 6 years, where Whitey was for a short time. Now, right now, you could do something for the state of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And I just got back from Chattanooga, too. And I spoke to some Marines there.
the security.
I like the guy. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Did I do the right thing in letting him ask? By the way, he happens to be right. Look, you don't even have to tell me. I guarantee you they have substandard parts in nuclear and in airplanes, because they get them from China, and when you get from China, you don't know what the hell you're getting. Go ahead, finish your question real fast.
Security booth.
I want to make these people happy.
The security booth. The security booth at the Seabrook nuclear plant is empty right now, and the NRC said it's not required. Okay? Now, I got involved because I'm in the nursing home profession.
Okay, come on, I gotta go. Hey, come on.
Oh, wait a minute. No, let me finish this.
Okay. You know what? I think your question's great, and I can understand. He's talking about basically counterfeit parts, just to cut to the chase. We don't have to know that you're in the nursing home business. What, are you trying to talk to some of us about joining your little home? Come on, sit down. Enough. We think it's good. We think your point is good. Yeah, give it to him. Good. I'll read it tonight around 1 in the morning instead of sleeping. All right. It's good. It's good. Go. Sit. Come on. Come on. Let's go.
And the national press were there, but you never heard a peep about them. Even Russia was there, press. And then I cornered him again in Rochester 40 days later. And I said to him, Mr. Trump, what'd you do with that information I gave you about counterfeit substandard parts at the Seabrook plant and the fact that the security booth is empty? And I said, don't you think that that's attracting potential terrorists who wants to make a name for themselves?
Mr. Trump, I was wondering when we can get together and work on the unsafe conditions at the Seabrook plant. It's been a month since I gave you that information.
I remember that. I remember you gave it.
And I think you and I should have a press conference, because both governors in Massachusetts and New Hampshire aren't protecting the first responders. And I would like to work with you on it.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. We're going to look at it. Go ahead. Next, back here. Go ahead.
I reported to the NRC. You know what they told me? It's not required. So I said to them, I said, don't you think it'd be a good idea to either have Next Era Energy either man the booth or tear it down? And he says, no, we can't make them do that. Well, that's pretty irresponsible. And, the security people at Seabrook, I think, probably want somebody to man that booth before they get near the reactor.
That sounds very, alarming.
Well, it is.
You have a security gate or guard or whatever, someone should be in it.
Yeah, we're not talking about a donut shop here.
It would seem like some kind of an atomic energy plants might very well be some sort of target.
And what really got me going is when I noticed, it's coming up to 32 years on this. And I have a lot of passion, I really do. And the young people at Triton and Pawtucket's given me even more. Because isn't it wonderful for young people to get involved in an important issue like this? And hopefully their parents are going to rise up when the investigation comes out by Triton. And that should be pretty soon. But I guess our biggest goal with We the People is we want to prove that democracy still works in this country. But it won't work unless people get involved. And because, I've been going around to the towns and asking them to write letters to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and also Mara Haley, because Mara Haley is paying attention to We the People. In fact, she set up a 4-member legal team made up also her chief of staff. So that certainly shows me that they're paying attention. And what we're asking for here, we're not asking for the shutdown of Seabrook. We're asking the NRC to hold a hearing so all first responders inside and outside the 10-mile radius of the plant can have an opportunity to testify whether they believe the plant can be evacuated, especially during the summer months. It's alarming to me when a state trooper came to me, and a person from the New Hampshire National Guard came to me. And they said, Mr. Comley, do you know about the gag orders that are on the Massachusetts State Police? I said, no. Do you know about the gag order on New Hampshire National Guard that was came out during the Sununu administration? I said, no. Well, what's the gag order? We cannot have any opinion, and we can't make any statement about whether the plant can be evacuated during the summer months. And we all know it can't be. And we have families too to protect. And we want you to release our names. I said, I don't think you want to do that. No, we do, because we have families. And we trust you and we the people to get somebody to pay attention here. It's incredible. And I mean, you know, now our students in these schools are not prepared for an actual drill. They haven't had a drill.
That seems very...
It's a paper drill.
Yeah, that does seem very, very strange and kind of relaxed. But it's really good that, you know, I'm a firm believer that young people need to become involved in their government on every level. Certainly register to vote when you're old enough to do it, and then vote, which is the most important thing, because, you know, that's kind of the future. Back in the 60s, I think probably young people had a lot to do with issues and getting involved and
Sure.
in this sort of thing. So maybe more of that needs to be done. Like I said, on every level. It'd be good if young people got involved on their local level too, and local issues that are going to affect them and do affect them, even when they're still in school.
Well, we've been very successful so far. To make the point about Chernobyl and Fukushima outside the 10-mile radius, we the people was able to get the selectmen in Ipswich and Georgetown to write letters to the NRC requesting this hearing for first responders. Since then, we've gotten there's only 6 towns within the 10-mile radius in Massachusetts, within the 10-mile radius of Seabrook. We've got the town of Newbury, we've got the town of Salisbury, we've got the city of Newburyport, and we just recently got the city of Amesbury. But it's very disappointing to we the people and our informants that I haven't been able to have the opportunity to present, you know, our views about concerns of Seabrooks and unsafe conditions, about counterfeit substandard parts that are still in the plant, by the way. And so the selectmen in this town, I wrote them a letter July 25th, and I wasn't notified. You know, I asked them to notify me when, you know, the issue was going to come up. And I think it came up September the 9th or something like that, right around that time. I wasn't notified. And then I found out that the selectmen felt that Merrimac already had an emergency plan in place. But in all due respect, I don't think that their plan certainly confirms that you're going to be able to evacuate people safely during the summer months, including July 4th and Labor Day. In fact, I went to Chief of Police Shears after that meeting, and I saw the minutes of it, and I asked him, I said, are you against the NRC holding a hearing for first responders? No. And then I met with 3 or 4 of the fire department, and they said the same thing. And so, you know, I think it's real important that we find out whether we're going to be able to evacuate people on time and safely during the summer months before there's an accident. I would think that's a responsible thing to do. And I'm hopeful that the selectmen, and I have to tell you this, that I have to say this, that Carol Traynor, you know, came to me, and she said, I'd like to give you an opportunity to, you know, present your case to the Merrimac residents. And I said, well, how's that? And she said, well, she says, I'm the director of the cable TV. And I, you know, and in my letter, I said that to the selectmen. I mean, they are the guardians of this town to make sure that the residents are safe. And I applaud Carol. I really do. 'Cause that takes courage. You know, she believes in democracy, and so do I. And I hope that Mr. Connor was a chairman, and I know he's with civil defense, and I know he's on the fire department. Well, again, give we the people an opportunity to come in and speak with him and the rest of the selectmen, and because I really think that's a responsible thing to do, in all due respect. And but I'm hopeful that's going to come about. The other town that hasn't allowed me to come in and do a presentation is West Newbury, and I sent them another letter out just recently. And I'm hopeful that they're going to get back to us and allow us to come in and present on case.
Well, the basis of cable channel and cable access is to give the opportunity for people of views and opposing views to present their case to, to towns or to individuals and to everyone who wants to participate. That's what cable access actually means, is allowing access to people who have issues or stories or whatever to bring forward.
Yeah, and it's very important, as I've said before, the national media, they're intimidated by the powerful nuclear industry and the NRC and members of Congress, because they get calls and they say, hey, we don't care about what you write about. You're going to write about anything you want, but the issue of nuclear power, hands off. If you don't, you won't get any more leaks from us, from the White House or Congress. And believe me, I know that. Do you know that I've asked to speak with Joseph Kennedy III? I have asked to speak with Congressman Moulton. I have asked to speak with Mr. Markey, who you probably know has made a career when he was a congressman to fight Seabrook. They won't meet with me. And you know the message they gave me? The decision on whether Seabrook, their license gets extended from 2030 to 50. And 2030 was the time that the architect said, tear it down. Now, what do you do with a school bus when it gets appreciated? You don't put it on the road. And those counterfeit substandard parts are still in that plant. And you know what I asked the NRC? And I've been asking them to give me that evidence for I don't know how long, 6 years at least. I asked them, I want a list of all the counterfeit substandard parts, 369 of them, by the way, that the NRC and the General Accounting Office came out with a report 2 years after I brought the evidence out to PSNH when they owned it. And the report was, nuclear health and safety, counterfeit, substandard parts are a government-wide concern. And they listed Seabrook in there. And when I first brought it out to Seabrook, they lied about it. They said, we don't have any such parts. Well, so I've learned that you can't trust Washington, FEMA, MEMA, the NRC, or people in Congress to protect our families. They've proved it again and again that they aren't going to do that. So it's up to us to do it. So January the 10th of this year, Mara Healy held a town hall meeting in Newburyport. And I heard about it, so I'm always looking for opportunities. So I got to the mic, and she let me speak. The place was packed. And after I spoke, she says, Mr. Comley, you have really perked our interest about your concerns about the Seabrook plant. And I want to meet with you, and I want our staff to meet with you after we've looked over your material. Well, I met with her staff, October the 18th. 4 of them was there for an hour at least. And I think they were pretty surprised with what I had. And one of the things I gave them was a transcript of one of the tape recordings, because now I've admitted I have these tape recordings that the Department of Justice has been after for almost 32 years. And I called them up 6 months ago and told them, those tapes you've been looking for. They said, oh yeah. Well, I have them. You have them, you never confirmed or denied you ever had them. I said, I know. Well, why are you telling us now? Well, I want closure. Oh, we can understand that, Mr. Comley. When can we meet to get the tapes? I said, you're not getting the tapes. I'm going to give them to Mara Healy. because I trust her. You know, she's got deep dimples, right? But don't let them fool you, because, you know, she sued the NRA and she sued Exxon, won those cases. But this is the biggest case she will ever have an opportunity to be involved in to protect the people, not only in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, but across the United States. Because, you know, they accused me of conspiring to topple the agency, while the Department of Justice and the NRC, that's the only thing they got right. And I'm going to bring them down with the truth. And that's when I'm after justice. I'm not a vengeful guy. I really am. You know, but I'm after what the Bible says. And Luke 18, 1 through 8 says, it was the story of the persistent widow who kept going to this judge. And the judge didn't respect man or God. But he finally said, give her justice because she's driving me crazy.
That's right, just get rid of her.
You know, and I am running for president of the United States. And you know what my campaign manager is? Jesus Christ. You know why? Because I can always get in touch with him. My lawyer, after I was in there for 6 years, he called me up, and he was an atheist. He was one of the best lawyers I ever met in my life, though. He called me up and he said, Steve, I've done everything I can to keep you out of jail. When you come to court tomorrow, bring your toothbrush, because they're going to put you in federal jail in Connecticut indefinitely until you give up the tapes. And I fell to my knees because there wasn't too many people knocking on my door. This is very intimidating. And I had to go to a higher power, and I found him. And unlike Trump, I won't be firing my campaign manager. And I'm trying to, Trump has lost his way as far as being president of the United States and representing what he should be representing. And I'm trying to find his way. I'm trying to help him find his way. In this petition, yeah, I hope this brings him here because, you know, what's it take? Does it take young people get involved? And I'll tell you, make no mistake, that's where the power is in this country. Because once the young people get moving, look out. As long as it's done, and I will do whatever it takes in a peaceful way to get the truth out. And nobody's going to stop me. And I love what I'm doing. I don't like the threats. And hopefully those are going to stop. And maybe Mara Haley can do something about that. But so we're asking Mara Haley, that's why I think it's very important for the selectmen in West Newbury and also Merrimac to not only write to the NRC and FEMA and MEBA and the rest of them. Write to Mara Haley, because she wants those letters. And I hope that the residents here in Merrimac, I understand if they sign a petition, 10 people sign a petition to the selectmen, that I understand that they will allow me to come in. But I mean, is that what it takes? You know, is that what happens when somebody wants to meet with a selectman? That's what they have to do? You know, again, and we have a billboard up on Route 1.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and it says, caution, President Trump, Seabrook Nuclear Zone, no evacuation possible, investigate the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And then it says what Einstein said. And that's why I want our students to get involved and our young people. Einstein said, after we crack the atom, to the village square we must take the facts of atomic energy. From there must come America's voice. And there's people in Congress don't want that to happen. You know, nuclear waste is active for what? 1 million years? And every nuclear power plant right now in the United States, you know what it is? It's a nuclear waste dump.
Yes,
because they don't have
everything
any
is
place
set
to
on
put
site.
it.
There's no.
And when that
place to
plant
put it.
gets
Sure.
decommissioned, you know, like Vermont Yankee, what's it going to take? They're going to give them 40 years to decommission Vermont Yankee. And the worst of it is, you can't smell nuclear power. And you can't hear it. What's a responsible thing to do? Is to find out ahead of time whether we're going to have it. And believe me, from what I told, I'm not trying to scare people. I've been told by past and present employees at the Seabrook plant and past and present employees at the NRC that plant can have an accident any day because of the way it's been built and the way it's being run. But there's one thing, they've tried to pencil that away. You know, we the people got a hold of Mr. James Palavano, who was a welding inspector at the Seabrook plant. He went to jail for 6 months for falsifying the welds. I called him up when he got out of jail. I said, Mr. Palavano, why would you jeopardize the way you make a living by inspecting welds by falsifying? He says, I was made a Pepsi. A lot of us were doing it. We were told to do it. I gave that evidence to the NRC. You know, I don't know where it went. I think it went in a circular file. 5 years later, James Wampler, a level 3 inspector, higher than Mr. Palavano was. He found 20% rate rejecting the welds after Palavano. You know what the owners of Seabrook did? They fired him, put a gag order on him so he couldn't talk about it. I went to Department of Labor Chief Reich under Clinton. He removed the gag order. Well, you know what happened then? Politicians come out of the woodwork. They get on TV and articles and whatnot. And I wasn't even invited to testify. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And they dropped the ball. And Joseph Kennedy, you know, I've got all my emails to all of them. They won't meet with me. And I worked with Uncle Ted. Uncle Ted came to me. Kennedy, he came to me when they had me before the Senate Arms Committee hearings when I was testifying about Stello because Bush nominated him to become Assistant Secretary of Energy in the middle investigation they were doing on me. And he lost that nomination. You know why? Couldn't get the tapes. That's why. Angry? Oh, you bet your life I'm angry. And a lot of other people should be angry. Now, we got a double standard right now. The Seabrook plant can operate even though they can't evacuate during the summer. You know what that is? That's a double standard. Because my son's healthcare facility and every business here in Merrimac and every hospital in Mass and New Hampshire, they have to obey the Department of Public Safety laws 365 days a year, right?
Correct.
So that means we got a double standard for Seabrook. Are we going to let that happen? Or, you know, our culture has been hurt for quite a while. Are we going to put up with this too? Or are we going to take control? Because you can't depend on the NRC. They're nothing more than a rubber stamp for the wishes of this industry, and so are members of Congress. That's how they get their war chest filled, by nuclear lobbyists. And they still do. What are we doing right now? We're sending 18-year-old men and women to Afghanistan again, right? And Iraq, and with a machine gun. They're coming back in a body bag, killed with the weapons we left in Iraq on purpose, while Congress is signing another big a bunch of military contracts. Saddam Hussein, he was our buddy for how many years? Right? All the bombs and chemical warfare he got to go in and kill hundreds of thousands of innocent Iranian people, our brothers and sisters, were given to him by what? Military companies in the United States. Something wrong here. Really wrong. And we got to repair America. Before we ever can make it great again, that's for sure. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if people are gonna rise up like they should, right in this town. It can start right here. They can make history here, right here. And they can appeal to the selectmen here once again. And let's prove democracy's still. And some people say, oh, we can't make a difference. We don't trust anybody in Washington or whatever. Well, that's a good reason to get involved then. You know, our forefathers, what'd they do? They gave us these freedoms that we should be using more. They died giving us these freedoms. We ought to respect what they've given us. If we don't, and I found out a long time ago, you know, I sued the NRC for harassment. I won the case. It was a summary judgment in the District of Columbia, in which Judge Pratt for the District of Columbia found that Victor Stella, The guy said, leave it behind, give her iodine, and then come after me with a federal subpoena. And Lando Zek, chairman of the 5 commissioners, and unbelievably, an NRC law judge, were guilty of violating my rights to express. And I tell you, maybe sometimes you don't really appreciate the freedoms that we have until some people try and take it away from you. And
That's often the case.
well, I'm not going to let them take it away from me. And I'm not going to let them take away our right to have a say in this important issue. Because this issue here jeopardizes every other issue in the United States. We got to stop it. And if we don't, we got nobody to blame but ourselves. And I tell you, the people, the Washington establishment, they're scared to death of what we're doing. Because when Seabrook is shut down, because it's in the wrong location, and everybody knows it, there's not enough secondary roads. We know that. And when Seabrook is shut down for being in the wrong location, and we the people, it's not any nuke. We're nuclear safety advocates, and your plant isn't safe, you shut it down. If it's safe, then you haven't got a problem with us.
Okay. We're getting near the end of our time today. It's been informative to chat with you. Now, can you, when we put out there the website that people can go to for We the People, so that when they want more information about the group and about the effort that you've made, I'm assuming that all of this material is on that website, and they can see for themselves that you have petitioned these higher ups in government and the responses that you've had. So if you'll put that out there for us, people can find a way to start to get involved.
I really appreciate your time and really appreciate this opportunity that Merrimac Cable has given We the People. It shows me a lot. It really does, because, you know, the Boston Globe, Mr. Henry, I met with him 2 years ago. And I told him, I said, your reporters aren't doing anything with the information. Oh, look into it. That was 2 years ago. And you know, Ellen Clay was his private secretary. And she came, thought I was going to meet with another reporter there about a year ago. And she come down and she says, Mr. Comley, I want you to know that the Boston Globe has no interest in writing about you running for president, and we have no interest about doing stories about We the People's work. And I said, well, Ms. Clay, I knew that before I come in the door. But let me tell you, it's rampant. I'm telling you right now. But the Washington Post, they're looking up the videos that are on my website with Mr. Trump, and I think they're going to confirm about it. You know?
So they can go to, and then, so I sit down on my computer, what do I need to punch in to obtain all this information?
Yeah, it's www dot, and then it's Stephen, all together, Stephen, Comley, C-O-M as in Mary, L-E-Y-S-R, like in senior.com. And when the first page comes up, they're going to see the picture of Reagan and I together with my hand and his hand on the envelope containing the counterfeit substandard parts. And unfortunately, the White House, you know, said that no exchange took place, let alone not give me any information. But on that picture, that first page, very important, Ike Eisenhower, part of his farewell caution speech to the American people, said this: do not allow the huge military complex get so out of control it affects the economy in every state, just like it's doing now. Then scroll down just a little bit on that same page and you'll see a little icon that says View, V-I-E-W, work. Hit that. And when you hit that, the second page will come up with a picture of Ronald Reagan again, without any writing on it. Then below it is a picture of Jean. She died knowing that the highest officials in Washington in the nuclear industry felt she was expendable to keep their profits going by leaving her behind, giving her iodine. And then below that are 5 videos. You're going to love these. The first 4, they're only a minute long, So please take the time to look at them. 2 of them are with Trump and I. One in Hampton in August of 2015. 40 days later in Rochester, I said to him, and his staff, believe it or not, wanted him to address these issues because they're first primary state. So the second one, I said, Mr. Trump, what'd you do with that information I gave you 40 days ago? And he says, I remember you giving me that. And again, not a peep from the national media. Then the third one is Senator Rubio, because I had an office down in Tallahassee, Florida for 15 years. And then when I was down there, I gave his chief of staff, Mr. Ward, the evidence that all 4 plants in Florida were built with counterfeit parts. And Florida owns Seabrook. Then the fourth one is Dr. Carson, who you know, Mr. Trump gave him a job because he campaigned for him. And there's one thing you don't do when you're President of the United States, when you form your administration, you don't put your buddies in there. You put the most intelligent people in the world in there. And then the fifth one is Triton's media class. Where do you see it? I mean, it's incredible. You know, and they're getting involved. You know, they want to prove democracy still works in Triton. And they have an opportunity to do it. And I'm excited for them. I really am. So again, thanks so much for this opportunity, because you certainly have proved that democracy is alive and well in this room. And you know, I don't take it lightly because of my experience with the press. It's a disgrace. You know what the journalist creed says? And I'm a journalist, been a journalist for 30 years. Suppression of the news to the suppression of the news to the American people are a violation of the public trust. And you can't even defend it. That's why the Globe, hopefully, I've told the Globe. I sent him an email not too long ago. I told him, I said, I'm not talking to any more of the Globe reporters until Mr. Henry apologizes to his readers for suppressing information they should be aware of about corruption at the NRC and the Seabrook plant. And as I say, it's going to have a rumbling effect across the United States. It is. When you shut down Seabrook because it's in the wrong location, then everybody knows it. You got to speak out, though. Because that sign on Route 1 in Salisbury, you know what it's saying? It's saying the truth. That's what it's saying. And that's what we need to get out. We don't need to cover it up anymore or suppress it, like a lot of the press is doing. So I'm wound up. There's no question about it, you know. And as I said, you know, I love what I'm doing. And I'm not stopping.
Well, it's obvious that you're obviously very passionate about this problem, and if obviously, you know, this could be a problem in nuclear power plants, you know, throughout the entire country. So we thank you very much for taking your time to come in and speak with us today. And people now know where to go if they want to, you know, to pursue this further. So it's been nice to meet you, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.